Hello. Yesterday we just passed object initializers and classes. Also, we covered the component state. Today, so today I'm planning to do unidirectional data flow, bindings, event handler, and interactions with forms and events. So let's get started. Let me first show sorry, that's PowerPoint, not PowerShell. It's PowerShell and get to the project. My rep was, oops, that was, what was the name? React. React factories. And now here I have to go to another effectiveness. And here I can start with npm start. So I'm going to start the project now. Yeah, so what we've done yesterday, it's here now, and we can keep learning. Okay, now unidirectional data flow. Now you have some internal state in your app component. However, you have not manipulated the local state yet. The state is static and thus is the component. A good way to experience state manipulation is to have some component interaction. Let's add a button for each item in the displayed list. The button says dismiss. It is going to remove the item from the list. It could be useful eventually when you only want to keep a list of unread items and dismiss the items that you are not interested in. So what they're doing, they're adding that buttons here. And that's what we're gonna do as well. I'm opening my Visual Studio Code, and they added just after points, items of points. Here it is. I'm still suffering for this indentation. Just closing the button, and to be honest, I prefer it maybe that way. It looks more tidy for me. Like if it's me doing the code and typing, I'm probably gonna put it that way. So here's span, button, then what's right in the button. This can be done as well. Here, and it can be done here. And now we have a little bit more clean, because this is only this is the button only, and I prefer it in one row. Okay, let's see what we've changed. Yeah, now we have a button, but this button is obviously not working. So I'm gonna refresh the page, and here we are. Now, the onDismiss class method is not defined yet. Where's the onDismiss? Oh yeah, it's here. So the onDismiss class method is not defined yet. We'll do it in a moment, but for now, the focus should be on the onClick handler of the button element. As you can see, the onDismiss method in the onClick handler is enclosed by another function. It is an arrow function. It's here. Yeah, so onClick and do that. Call this function onDismiss on this method. Now, did you notice the multi-lines for the button element? Note that elements with multiple attributes get messy as one line at some point. That's why the button element is used with multi-lines and indentation to keep it readable. But it's not mandatory. It is only a code style recommendation that I highly recommend. Now, you have to implement the onDismiss functionality. It takes an ID to identify the item to dismiss. The function is bound to the class and thus becomes a class method. That's why you access it with this onDismiss and not onDismiss. This object is your class instance. In order to define the onDismiss class method, you have to bind it in the constructor. Bindings will be explained in another chapter later on. So I'm gonna put this on straight. It's inside constructor. Yeah, it's inside the constructor. Actually, you have this state and this onDismiss. So this state and next one. I'm gonna actually do it with same identification level here. Sorry if I'm too, yeah, for me in my eyes should look like that. So now we implement that method onDismiss. Actually, we bind it to the constructor. In the next step, you have to define its functionality, the business logic in your class. Class methods can be defined the following way. Now we are defining it here. It's going to be empty method actually, and is just after the binding. So we're going to put it here, and it's going to be the same level. To be honest, for me, it doesn't really matter. Wow, they've done it like that in the same level as the constructor, but I don't see any differences, to be honest, and I prefer because it's empty. What about if I delete it? This error occurred during the build time and cannot be dismissed. Yeah, that's fine. Now, you're able to define what happens inside of the class method. Basically, you want to remove the item identified by the ID from the list and store an updated list to your local state. Afterward, the updated list will be used in the running render method to display it. The removed item shouldn't appear anymore. You can remove an item from a list by using the JavaScript built-in filter functionality. The filter function takes a function as input. The function has access to each value in the list because it iterates over the list. That way, you can evaluate each item in the list based on a filter condition. If the evaluation for an item is true, the item stays in the list. Otherwise, it will be filtered from the list. Additionally, it is good to know that the function returns a new list and doesn't mutate the old list. It supports the convention in React of having immutable data structures. So now this is where we implement our method, our behavior. When we press the button. Sorry guys, sorry. Now we are implementing the method. Okay. Is it actually the same? Yeah, that's inside the constructor. Well then, why we have? Oh, okay. Maybe. Yeah, the constructor. Sorry guys, it's my bad. The constructor is closing here, and now we are outside of constructor, which is my bad. Now here it is where the constructor finish, and here is where we finish. Actually. And we should be fine now, yeah. Now at least we are not crashing. Because now we need to put now you can extract the function and pass it to the filter. Yeah, where we filter now, where we filter the ID. And next step, you can extract the function and pass it to the filter function. Okay. On this minute. So I'm going to rewrite it. Const update list equal to this state list dot filter is not ID. Yeah, they make it a little bit more understandable here. Some no, because we don't have the return. Yeah, I'm just thinking loudly, guys. This is I have a little preparation for this tutorial, so that's why I'm developing live development. Well, we have update list and state.list.filter function is not ID. Okay, what they're doing, they're separating the function. So I can basically replace this here. Still not working. Yeah. In addition, you can do it more consistently by using a JavaScript ES6 arrow function again. Now we're doing it that way. I think this is the best way we can do it because it's more clear and you don't have any complicated code like that, such as not complicated, but this is much, much better and much, much understandable for human beings. The button is still not filtering. And it's not filtering because no, it should do because we are calling that function on dismiss on object ID. Let's see. You can even inline it again like you did in the on-click handler of the button, but it might get less readable. Yeah, I prefer this way. For me, it's better. Now, let's see. I'm gonna put the last one. The list removes the clicked item now. However, the state isn't updated yet. Therefore, you can finally use the setState class method to update the list in the internal component state. Okay, that's what we're going to do on this means. Here it is. Now it's working. When we press the button, we're dismissing the items from the list. So now this is working and we can get back to the book. Now run again your application and try the dismiss button. It should work. Yes, indeed. What you experience now is the unidirectional data flow in React. You trigger an action in your view with onClick. A function or class method modifies the internal component state and the render method of the component runs again to update the view. Now let's do the bindings. It is important to learn about bindings in JavaScript classes when using React ES6 class components. In the previous chapter, you have bound your class method on dismiss in the constructor. Yes, that's what we do. We bind it on the constructor that way. Why would you do that in the first place? The binding step is necessary because class methods don't automatically bind this to the class instance. I might be wrong. This binding is like in injection in C#. Yeah. Why would you do that in first place? The binding step is necessary because class methods don't automatically bind these to the class instance. Let's demonstrate it with the help of the following ES6 class component. Yeah, they want to do that new one. Well, and after that they put constructor. Okay, let's try. We're fitting everything in one class anyway. So just before the app class, I'm gonna put this class and the indentation again. Click cancel. Yeah, that's correct. And something like that. Now I make a new class here, which is instancing button with name Whitney. Yeah, the component renders just fine, but when you click the button, you get undefined in your developer console log. That's a main source of bugs when using React, because if you want to access this .state in your class method, it cannot be retrieved because this is undefined. So in order to make this accessible in your class methods, you have to bind the class methods to this. In the following class component, the class method is properly bound in the class constructor. Now this is the one. This, no, sorry, the constructor. I have to pass the call constructor into the class. Constructor, yeah. Yeah. Oh, why I have a feeling I'm in the wrong place. I should probably do it somewhere here. So hidden. Well, can come here. Ew. So what probably they want is like I can call this one in here. Yeah. And I have to import it here. No, I'm wrong. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, I'm not gonna go that further. Now, when trying the button again, this object to be more specific, the class instance should be defined and you will be able to access this state. Or, as you will later learn these props now, the class method binding can happen somewhere else too. For instance, it can happen in the render class method. Now, they are trying that again. I'm showing how to do it with the arrow function. Now, I should avoid it too. But you should avoid it. When trying the button again, this object to be more specific, the class instance should be defined and you would be able to access this state, or as you later learn these props now. The class method binding can happen somewhere else too. For instance, it can happen into the render class method, but you should avoid it. So you don't do that in render method, because it would bind the class method every time when the render method's run. Yeah. So basically, every time when the render is rendering, it's gonna run again. It's gonna bind class method, which is not really good. Basically, it runs every time your component updates, which leads to performance implications. When binding the class method in the constructor, you bind it only once in the beginning when the component is instantiated. So, sorry. So when we're running and we're instantiating a class, then we're using the constructor, and that's where binding should run once only. Otherwise, it's gonna run multiple times on every update, and then it's gonna have performance issues. Another thing people sometimes come up with is defining the business logic of their class methods in the constructor. Yeah, which is very, very wrong. You should avoid it too, because it will clutter your constructor over time. The constructor is only there to instantiate your class with all its properties. Yeah, that's all. You use your constructor only to instantiate the class with the properties, and that's it. That's why the business logic of class method should be defined outside of the constructor. Last but not least, it is worth to mention that class methods can be outbound automatically without binding them explicitly by using JavaScript ES6 arrow functions. If the repetitive binding in the constructor annoys you, you can go ahead with this approach instead. The official React documentation stick to the class method binding in the constructor. That's why the book will stick to those as well. Yeah, so you can bind, where they bind here. Okay, I can't see now. I can't see it now. People don't bind. Event handler. The chapter should give you a deeper understanding of event handlers in Elements in your application. You're running. Let me see. No. You're using the following button element to dismiss an item from the list. Yeah, we are dismissing with that button, and that's the name of the button. That's already a complex use case because you have to pass a value to the class method, and thus you have to wrap it into another arrow function. So basically, it has to be a function that is passed to the event handler. The following code wouldn't work because the class method would be executed immediately when you open the application in the browser. When using onClick do something, the do something function would execute immediately when you open the application in your browser. The expression in the handler is evaluated. Since the return value of the function isn't a function anymore, nothing would happen when you click the button. But when using onClick do something, whereas do something is a function, it will be executed when clicking the button. Yeah, that's obviously. The same rules apply for the onDismiss class method that is used in your application. However, using onClick dismiss onClick this on dismiss wouldn't suffice because somehow the item object ID property needs to be passed to the class method to identify the item. Yeah, they identified by ID. To identify the item that is going to be dismissed. That's why it can be wrapped into another function to sneak in the property. The concept is called higher order functions in JavaScript and will be explained briefly later on. So, what did know? Yeah, they wrap it to another function. A workaround would be to define the wrapping function somewhere outside and only pass the defined function to the handler. Since it needs access to the individual items, it has to live in the inside of the map function block. So this is what it's doing. This dot state Yeah, because now there are two, we're gonna need the curly braces. And we need one curly braces here. Because as they mention in the beginning of the book, we need well, it's not vertical, is it? Yeah, no, it's fine. But when I put this dot say left, this dot mark, this dot say that this does not item our function, and they have that return. Oh, yeah, I didn't see that code there. This dot, boom, 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 and now they put in the button, so we put only side dot button, so they do that, which make it shorter. And this is where I make that mistake. Now it's giving me error. I should put curly brace here problem. And I close it here. Now it's empty, which is not really good. So the code somehow the item object is going to be passed to the class method to identify the item that's going to be dismissed. That's why it can be wrapped into another function to sneak it in the code. The concept is called higher order function in JavaScript, and we explain. Now I put it, but it's not working. It has to be a function that's passed to the element handler. As an example, try this code instead. So let's try this one. Okay. When I put and I remove the curly braces, it starts throwing me errors. It's a curly brace expected, but where? So this is where I open. I can't see where is the problem. It will run when you open the application, the browser, but not when you click the button. Whereas the following code would only run when you click the button. It is function that is executed when you trigger the handler. Okay, I'll replace this one, but this is still not making complete sense for me. Now const on handle dismiss and this on dismiss. This may be something very small and I can't see it at the moment, but we'll go through this one as well. Let's see how much time we have. 18 minutes. Now, I'll see what is the problem and I'll come back in a second. Okay, I can't find a quick solution for this one, but I'll continue in the next video with that problem and how we can solve it. Bye.